I'd like to welcome Dr. Andrii Buvailo, the Director of Deep Pharma Intelligence, who will be presenting trends and leading players in the therapeutic cancer vaccines R&D. Andrii, thank you for joining us. The floor is now yours.
Thank you very much, Maxine. Today, I'd like to present you with the trends and leading players in the therapeutic cancer vaccines R&D. And I'd like to highlight some findings that we identified as part of the research in our report, 5 high-impact cancer vaccine platforms. As Roxy introduced, the report is available for free now on our website. So first of all, let's start with the introduction of what the cancer is. And in order to understand this system disease, we have to understand that essentially cancer is a loss of normal growth process control in cells. Essentially, normal cells, due to some random mutations, due to some external factors, maybe genetic mutations in the human body, they kind of get into the state where they lose control of the normal cell cycle. So they stop dying away when they finish doing their job, and essentially this leads to uncontrolled progression of those kind of cells, and they grow into tumors, which leads to cancer. Essentially, the cancer is very difficult disease to treat for a number of reasons, and one of them is tumor heterogeneity, which is the idea that the cancer tumor is not a uniform thing, but rather it has a diverse set of cancer cells with quite different properties, and this leads to challenges with the actual treatment, because while the treatment might be effective against one line of cells, it might not be as effective or might be completely useless against the mutated cancer cells. And so the whole therapy might not be very useful and might fail to stop the progression of the disease. There are many approaches right now to treat the cancer, and the oldest ones include things like chemotherapy, and the more modern approaches rely on trying to fix our immune system, and which constitutes the area of immunotherapy. And one of the hot areas of the immunotherapy is the therapeutic cancer vaccination. This is the quite old idea, but only recently it has grown into a very promising area, which already gives hopes for fighting this debilitating disease. So first of all, let's recall how the vaccination works in general. And again, vaccination is very broadly defined thing, and it is used to protect our bodies from pathogens, typically viruses or bacteria. And the idea is fairly simple in general, but quite complex in details. But the idea is that we use kind of either inactive pathogen or some part of that pathogen, antigen, to kind of train our immune system beforehand, so that next time when it encounters the actual disease, it already knows what to fight, and it can get activated and essentially render the immune response, which would be enough to fight the disease. But in the case of cancer, it's a much more complicated story compared to, let's say, viruses and bacteria. Why? Because cancer is essentially based on our own cells, so the cells of the body. And that's why those cells can get quite substantially more sophisticated in the ways they can kind of trick our immune system and avoid its response. That's why it's so difficult and challenging to develop the cancer vaccines. And And again, in order to understand how this technology works, let's recall what is the immune system. We have the innate immunity, which is a non-specific immunity, which just protects our body from essentially anything that goes wrong, or any external factors that enter our bodies. And we have adaptive immune system, which is a more complex part of the immunity, which essentially can memorize the information about previous encounters with diseases and hold this memory about the diseases for months and sometimes even years. And so next time when we get ill, we kind of can easily recover. And one important component of the immune system are the antigen presenting cells, for example, dendritic cells here. And the idea here that these cells are kind of messengers who interact first with the pathogen, with any malignancy, and then they kind of get the information about the antigen on those pathogens, and then it presents those antigens on their surface, and then travels to lymph nodes to kind of instruct the specific immune cells, like for example T cells or B cells, and get them activated and then get them prepared to attack that specific pathogen or malignancy or whatever. And for example, one technology that is now really rising, just to give you a hint how this may be done, the mRNA vaccination works like this. We have healthy cells and we have the cancer cells, which essentially healthy cells which acquired some mutations. It is damages in the DNA, and so we can identify those mutations. And then we can kind of identify this, those mutations that would be most useful to render the immune response. Not every mutation is suitable, but some mutations are kind of suitable to develop the vaccine that would render the most strong response. So these kind of mutations can then be represented in the mRNA molecule. And the mRNA molecule is essentially the molecule which is a messenger, the molecule that instructs our body to produce some proteins or some molecules. And then we can ingest this mRNA with the information about the mutations in the cancerous cells into the body. And then this mRNA will be essentially kind of read by the antigen presenting cells, and the information about these antigens will be presented and then delivered to the lymph node to adequately kind of initiate the cells, the T cells, to fight these cancerous cells. So from that moment, they know what to fight, and they can attack the cancerous cells, and in theory, they can kill and cure cancer. So for now, although probably 30 years of research has been done in this area, it just several vaccines that are available and FDA approved for now. Some of them are vaccines kind of preventive cancer vaccines. Those include vaccination against the human papilloma virus or from hepatitis B. And this is not actually the cancer vaccines, but they are vaccines which help to protect us against the very reasons why cancer might emerge. But this report and my presentation will focus on two other areas, the therapeutic cancer vaccines. And those vaccines are vaccines that are administered when the disease already developed. So they are administered at the actual therapeutics to treat already progressing cancer. Also, there are prophylactic cancer vaccines, but we are in very early days of this field, and the idea here is to give patients something that would probably help the immunity fight the cancer in the very first occurrence, and the patient might not even develop the cancer at all. And we have first of its kind preventive breast cancer study right now just initiated. But from the therapeutic cancer vaccines, we only have basically two examples. This is the Prevanga vaccine, which was FDA approved in 2010 against some form of prostate cancer. And then we have the oncolytic virus vaccine, telimigan, which is treating the melanoma. It was approved in 2015. And then the interesting thing that the vaccination against tuberculosis is actually was shown to be the way to treat some bladder cancer. So this is the third example of the existing cancer vaccine. So it's not much, but we can expect really the growth in this area. And so if we see the occurrence of clinical trials ongoing right now, we can see that's pretty much a lot of stuff is going on here, and many types of vaccines are now tested. Most of them are in phase 1 trials as of today, and so this brings us to the idea and expectation that soon we are going to see results, and hopefully we can see some progression in this area. And there is total the scientific interest is growing in this area as well. And we see that it's a lot of research that is being done right now, and we see that the research is growing, and also the funding for this area is growing as well, which we see in these two graphs for the leading companies and for many biotech startups. And this means that biotech investors kind of see the light in the darkness for this area, which is a very good sign. Judging by the analysis of the market and on many companies and use cases and latest breakthroughs, we kind of feel that the area now is on the brink of progress, where it will acquire kind of exponential dynamics, and this will be driven primarily by two factors: but the innovative vaccine platforms, for example, mRNAs on antigenic essence, and also bioinformatics tools and artificial intelligence, which are really helpful for modeling these things and for identifying best antigens, etc. So we have profiled the markets, and in this chart you see the categorization of companies, kind of antigen that is used for the vaccine development. So, and this brings us to the classification of antigens. They fall into two broad groups. One is tumor-specific antigens, and another one is tumor-associated antigens, and everything that falls in between. So the tumor-specific antigens are unique molecules, unique proteins, which are available only on cancerous cells. Whereas the tumor-associated antigens are kind of molecules, most probably proteins, that are available in both normal, healthy cells and cancerous cells. But in cancerous cells, they are, let's say, overexpressed, or the profile of their kind of activity concentration might be different. And so this might be a trigger and to develop the therapy based on this difference. And we have whole cell antigens. Essentially, this is the idea that the whole cell can be used to trigger response with the entirety of molecules, antigens that it has. All these methods have their own strengths and weaknesses, and we will be discussing those in more details today. And also we have categorization across the second very important component of any therapeutic vaccine, which is the delivery system. And so we have really new technologies coming, such as mRNA, DNA vaccines, viral vectors, peptides, and dendritic cells. and even CAR-Ts. So all these kind of delivery machineries, they give hope that we are approaching this convergence of biological technologies, and finally we can have meaningful treatments. So reviewing the landscape of companies, we have identifying kind of players with the mainstream approach, like for example, Antigen vaccine developers here on the left, on the right side, and then on the left side we have more innovative approach, kind of the companies that are in early days, so maybe in some test modes, and they have a platform that's promised to disrupt the market or complement the existing mainstream approaches. We have classified some of the companies across their funding capacity, the amount of funding that they raised, and the properties of the vaccination method that they develop. For example, those range from, they fall broadly into three groups: those who have mildly specific vaccines, but can address that tumor heterogeneity problem, as I mentioned on the slide 2. We have those with highly specific vaccines, but with limited or absent heterogeneity problem addressed. And we have some quite rare examples, but very promising examples of vaccine platforms which address both tumor heterogeneity and specificity. And also we have classifications across the pipeline maturity. So we have platforms with preclinical proof of concept studies, clinical pipelines in phase 1 and 2, and also late stage clinical candidates. So let's start discussing the key platforms that are now popular and promising in this space. So Antigen Platform, as I already showed you, that neoantigens are unique antigens that are derived from unique mutations in the cancer cells. So those antigens are not present in healthy cells, and so they can be very clearly differentiated. Essentially, the technological process looks like we have a collection of tumor and normal tissues, and then of course we have genome sequencing of both kinds of cells. And by the way, we need here to stress out the importance of things like next generation sequencing, which actually makes it possible to sequence DNA, RNA, and all these molecules to be able to actually do this at all. So then we have, based on the sequences of healthy and cancerous cells, we can find the differences and specific kind of markers of the cancerous cells using bioinformatics software, bioinformatics methods. And artificial intelligence, by the way, is very helpful here. And then we have essentially the ability to develop vaccines that rely on those found differences, on those antigens that we identify as the best candidates to render therapeutic response. Among currently available candidates, we can kind of see that BioNTech and Moderna, for example, have clinical candidates, and then Genosia and some other companies. And so, yes, these are just examples of what they do, and essentially they all rely on this neoantigen concept, where essentially they kind of try to compare the healthy and cancerous tissues and identify the best antigens to work with and to rely on. The next very important platform is Tumor-Associated Antigen Platform. And again, tumor-associated antigens are those kind of proteins that are abnormally expressed by cancer cells. So we can measure this overexpression and based on that, we can select those kind of proteins which needs to be targeted by the immune system when they are overexpressed. And that's in the that underpins the whole concept of these drug candidates, for example, by Neximmune and Dentrion. And by the way, Provenge is the first FDA-approved cancer vaccines, and this is exactly the vaccine that is using this this technology, this concept. Here it is. Inovio is another example of the quite known company in this space, and we all hope that they will be able to kind of advance their DNA vaccines quite soon. Another broad platform for cancer vaccine research is Cellular platform, and the idea here is that whole cells of cancers can be used as the source of training knowledge, so to speak, for the immune system. In this case, basically, the problem with this platform is that the cancer cell contains a lot of material, a lot of different molecules, and sometimes not only this renders unnecessary responses, maybe some unnecessary immune response or side effects. Sometimes it may be just lacking the specificity, or some other problems arise. But still, this is a quite significantly studied platform that is used to develop vaccines. And we have just a couple of candidates for brain and ovarian cancer here, for glioblastoma and other types of cancer. And again, we are still waiting for the latest results to understand the where it's going. Some of the companies active in this specific areas are Evita Biomedical, Heat Biologics, and some other companies. So the other platform is quite innovative approach, which is Antigenic Essence platform. And the idea here is something kind of in between of the platform that I have described earlier. So Antigenic Essence platform is kind of revitalization of the cellular vaccine platform. So the idea here is that only the surface antigens of the cancerous cell are kind of used to create this the mixture, and so the proteases, for example, proteases are used to kind of cleave these proteins and then prepare a specialized essence that would be very representative of a specific cancer cell. So it undergoes the quality control using mass spectrometry, and some proteomics methods are used to kind of make it into a very representative tool to develop the vaccines. One of the speakers for today will describe this platform in great detail, so I will not be talking too much. But the idea of this Antigenic Essence platform is that it is really the innovation behind the whole cell approach, and it's targeting tumor microenvironment, which is extremely important, and it brings cost and time efficiency. So the expert and the company that is developing this innovative platform is BioBohemia, and to our knowledge, that's the first company of this developing this platform. So we can really expect a great breakthrough if things work out well. Oncolytic viruses is the final and fifth platform that I would like to briefly touch upon. And the idea here that we can basically exploit the idea that oncolytic viruses have the property to infect the cells and induce the cell lysis. And so we can direct the virus to infect cancer cell specifically without touching other cells. And then by that, we kind of stimulate the immune system to attack only cancer cell, trying to kind of kill that virally infected cells. And so it removes the malignancy. There are some candidates again in the clinical trials by the companies such as Ancaritic, Candle Therapeutics, Genelux, and others. So quite interesting developments here, and I think our guest will a little bit expand today on this concept as well. So bringing this all to close, there are kind of key takeaways here. We have the 5 leading platforms. It's not even leading, it's more of the innovation potential that they bring to hope for the sooner discovery of real candidates. And we have profiled more than 150 companies in this area, and a lot of biotech startups are now emerging to tackle this problem. And so cancer vaccine development is moving into the direction of more specific tumor targeting, and while reducing side effects by novel delivery methods. That's also a very important part of the game, delivery systems. And finally, major attention is paid to Antigen Platform, but it will probably be pushed out by the growing cancer vaccine platforms. For example, we believe Antigenic Essence might be a really interesting, innovative platform to kind of advance the market. So with that, I'd like to conclude this presentation. And you are welcome to explore our other reports. We are very active in the area of artificial intelligence and drug discovery, cell therapies, and some other areas of the pharmaceutical industry. And we are open for strategic collaboration and joint analytics reports. So make sure to reach out to us and follow our company on myself, on Biotech Oracle, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Andrii. That was really insightful, particularly the landscape overview, which really visualized the landscape at the moment. So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to getting into that a little bit more later in the Q&A.